Yo, what up, brothers? What's up? It's the Director. Chargers fans. Another fun one coming up today. Stat projections for the 2020 season. This time with my boy, Mike Williams. Now, I'm going to be up front with you guys on this one. I may seem a little bit bullish on Mike Williams as compared to what he has performed like the last couple of seasons. However, I'm very, very high on Mike Williams. I have not made that a secret. Every video I've talked about Mike Williams, I've always said that I think this is going to be a huge year for him. Yes, we do have a new quarterback situation coming in. Tyrod Taylor, maybe Justin Herbert as well. In this video, I'm assuming that Tyrod Taylor is our starter for the entire season. And you know what? I like the odds for Mike Williams with Tyrod Taylor at starter. I think it's going to give him a lot of opportunities to go up there and catch it. I do think he's going to be a red zone machine this year. I think Mike Williams comes back to those 10-plus touchdown seasons that we've seen in the past. You know, I think he gets a lot of those shares. So before we get into this video, guys, hit us up with a like and sub if you do enjoy these videos. A small amount of time you guys take to hit the like, sub, bell notification, help out a lot. Let's get going with this video. Now, like I said before in the last video, guys, if you would like, you can take out a piece of paper and a pen and write down your predictions as I go through game by game what I think's going to happen with Mike Williams in the 2020 season. I will be giving you additional information like you see on the left side, the matchups that he's going to be going up against to get you guys better prepared for what your prediction would be. And then you can add up that total at the end and post it in the comment section below. We'll have some fun with it. So week 1 versus Cincinnati. I do have his last matchup stats right here. He put up 3 receptions for 45 yards, no score. However, he will be going up against William Jackson, Trey Waynes, and Jesse Bates, which I think is a pretty fair matchup. I think it's, you know, they're pretty good defensive backs, but I also think, and you'll see this a lot, when Keenan Allen maybe has a lower game, I think Mike Williams is going to shine. And Mike Williams is a different kind of wide receiver than Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen is good at getting open, converting, you know, third downs, that kind of thing. But at the same time, I feel like Mike Williams, he's a lower reception kind of guy, but he can go for a lot more yards through the air. He's good, you know, those 15, 20-yard catches, and he can definitely put up points in the end zone because of his height, 6'4". You saw his time at Clemson. He goes up for those 50-50 balls, and that's why we drafted him, I feel like. He's really good at those 50-50 catches, coming down with those. So versus William Jackson, Trey Waynes, and Jesse Bates, I think he has a pretty good week 1, guys. I think the Chargers come out as a unit and put up some good points week 1, some good yardage as well for Mike Williams. So I'm going to give him 5 receptions for 72 yards and a score. I think he does go up there and put up his first touchdown of the season, thus kind of like setting the tone for the rest of the year. Mike Williams is going to sit back and not, you know, produce touchdowns this year. I think he's going to definitely produce touchdowns this year, and he's going to prove it his very first week out in Cincinnati. All right, week 2 versus the Chiefs division opponent. These ones are a little bit different. I'm actually going to be putting up their last matchup stats based on where they were in the season. So this first matchup right here, I'm basing that off of our first matchup last year, if that makes sense. So taking a look at the defensive backs he's going up against, Rashad Breeland, Tyrann Mathieu, and Travarius Ward. I would say 3 pretty decent defensive backs. Tyrann Mathieu probably being the biggest one, but Tyrann Mathieu, I think the Honey Badger only stands at like 5'8" or something like that. So there's a matchup mismatch right there. If you want to go after Tyrann Mathieu, I think you use a guy like Mike Williams with his height and his reach to go up, throw those 50-50 balls, you know, at Mike Williams, line him up on the right side, and just go bananas against Tyrann Mathieu. I think he can definitely take him. The last matchup, I should say the first time we played him last year, he put up 2 receptions for 76 yards. So again, a lot of yardage, not very many receptions, but a lot of yardage, which I think might happen again. Versus Kansas City, here are my projections for Mike Williams. 4 receptions for 88 yards. Maybe no score this game, but I definitely think that's a mismatch right there as far as matchup between him and Tyrann Mathieu. I do think that it's also a really good opportunity for Hunter Henry. We'll be seeing his video here in the near future. Next up, let's take a look at the Carolina Panthers going up against Dante Jackson, Trey Boston, and Troy Pride Jr. Pretty decent defensive back core. Last time they matched up, it was 2016. He had not been drafted by the Bolts yet. And so my projection, just based off of the matchups, is going to be 4 receptions for 59 yards and a tutty. You know, lower receptions, lower yards, but I do think he does get the score in the end zone. Next up, week 4 versus the Buccaneers, newly formed Buccaneers. Tom Brady, credible offense. Their defense is probably a little suspect in the secondary, but I do think that's where a guy like Mike Williams can shine. Maybe not putting up a score this week. So the last time that they played again, 2016, hadn't been drafted yet. But the projection I'm putting up is 4 receptions, 72 yards, no score. I do think that the secondary is a little bit suspect, and I do think he puts up a decent amount of yards, no score this season, or this week, though. But I do think he's going to have a pretty good run coming up here very soon. Next up, the New Orleans Saints. I think their defensive back core is pretty insane. Marshawn Lattimore is very good. He's probably going to be sticking to Keenan Allen like glue. Malcolm Jenkins and Janoris Jenkins as well. I think Janoris Jenkins is who's going to be matching up against Mike Williams quite a bit. The last time they played, I do think it was 2016 as well. So he wasn't in the league quite yet. My projection is 3 receptions for 52 yards. No score, but I do think he stretches the field a couple of times, gives Keenan Allen an opportunity to get in the end zone. So again, you got to look at Keenan Allen and Mike Williams as a 1-2 unit. Like they are a very aggressive pair of wide receivers in the NFL, very deadly. And when you see one maybe underperform a little bit, it's because he's opening up opportunities for the other. Next up is Week 6 versus the Jets. Last matchup. He was on the field, but he didn't get any reception. I think this was his rookie season too. So obviously they were working him into the system, so don't worry about too much. The last matchup stat is right there. Jamal Williams, CJ Mosley, and Pierre Dercier, kind of the main guys you got to worry about on defense for the Jets. And there's talk that Jamal Adams may not be with the Jets here next season. You never know. They keep saying they want to keep him, but you never know. Maybe Jamal Adams isn't there, which would make this secondary super suspect. I think he has a really, really good week this week, guys. I think if Jamal Adams is there, definitely going to cause him some problems. But even if he is, I think Mike Williams is going to put up a pair of touchdowns. This is the week I think that he kind of goes off. He kind of, starts his increase throughout the rest of his games as becoming a dominant red zone threat. 5 receptions, 96 yards, and 2 touchdowns is what I've got for Mike Williams, and I think he's going to absolutely wow everybody. This will be the first week that he comes out and says, hey, you got to watch out for me, Mike Williams. I'm a red zone target through and true. Next up, versus the Dolphins, Week 7. This is in Miami. Again, like I said last time with Keenan Allen, their defensive back core is pretty good, man. Xavier Howard, Byron Jones, Eric Rowe. The last time they matched up, 2019, but he did not play for whatever reason. Maybe he was hurt, but still, we haven't seen what he can do against it, man. I think he could do pretty well. I have him projected for 5 receptions, 69 yards, and a score. I do think he does score in the Miami Dolphins, and I do think this is a game that we should win. Next up, Week 8 versus the Jaguars. Now, again, the Jaguars, very suspect at the defensive backs. You got C.J. Henderson, Trey Herndon, and then Miles Jack in the at linebacker. He'll be playing coverage linebacker, but Mike Williams will probably be a little bit deeper than that. I don't think this defensive back core is anywhere near ready to face off against Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. Mike Williams specifically, I think he's going to have a pretty decent day, guys. The last time they matched up, 2 receptions, 63 yards. 63 yards on 2 receptions, which is insane to me. I think he goes for a ton more yardage this game, guys. 6 receptions, 118 yards, which I do think he gets away with one, maybe like a 40-yard bomb for the touchdown, and then an additional 5 receptions, 118 yards, man. That's what I want to see versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think he can absolutely blow them up this year. Next up, our first matchup versus the Oakland Raiders, usually the Las Vegas Raiders. Prince Amukamara, Jonathan Abram, a little bit weaker, the defensive back core. What do I have down here for them? So pretty decent as far as his receptions. Last time, 2 receptions, 55 yards. No tutty, but he definitely went up there for the yardage. I think he puts up a couple more receptions. 75 yards seems pretty decent to me. Has a decent week, but maybe gets lost behind Keenan Allen versus the Raiders. Next up, the Denver Broncos. This one is in Colorado, in Denver. AJ Boye, Justin Simmons, Kareem Jackson. I think it's a pretty solid defensive back unit. Maybe playing away from home, it's going to be a little bit colder. He might have a little bit more trouble trying to handle them. So I'm going to say he puts up a bit fewer receptions. The last matchup, he had 6 receptions, 74 yards, and a tutty. I think that was our first game versus them was at home. So he had a pretty decent outing. I think in Denver, though, maybe he struggles a little bit. 3 receptions, 58 yards. Next up, Week 12 versus the Bills. This is one where I think Keenan Allen might struggle a little bit because of the defensive back matchup versus Tre'Davious White. Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde, I actually kind of like that matchup versus Mike Williams out there. Again, once again, a red zone target. Last time they played, 2 receptions, 27 yards, no tutty. Again, I don't know if he had an off game or something like that, but I do think he scores with my projection here. 5 receptions, 82 yards, and a score. That's what I'm kind of thinking for him. I think it's going to be a lower game for Keenan Allen, but a better game for Mike Williams. Next up, versus the Patriots, a very, very, very tough defense. You guys remember last year, they were very good. The last time they matched up, I think it was in a playoff game, 5 receptions, 68 yards, and no touchdown. I think there is a chance he can get close to those numbers again, but just for my projection, I'll say this is probably the week that he struggles the most. 2 receptions, 37 yards, no touchdown. But again, anything can happen. I just think that if there's any a week next season, I think it's going to be this week where he probably struggles the most, and it's going to be versus that Pats secondary. Next up, against the Atlanta Falcons, decent secondary, I would say. I mean, Deion Jones in the middle, that's more of for your slot guys, but Keanu Neal, AJ Terrell being a rookie. I don't know, man. Last time they matched up, 2016, no data on that. But I think my projection reads 6 receptions, 94 yards, and a touchdown. I think, again, he goes off one more time. I think after having that kind of a slow burning between that and the New England Patriots, maybe the Bills gave him a little bit of problems. I think he comes back against the Falcons and absolutely goes ham once again. 6 receptions, 94 yards, and a score. Getting close to the end here, guys. The Raiders, this time in Las Vegas. The second matchup last year, he went for 3 receptions, 51 yards. I think this game in Las Vegas, he still puts up 5 receptions, 64 yards, and a touchdown. Again, I think he solidified his spot as the red zone threat. Mismatches everywhere. You know, I don't know how tall Prince Mukamara is, but I do think Jonathan Abrams a little bit shorter. You can attack him with Mike Williams and put up another score with him there. Week, let's see, 16 versus the Broncos. Once again, AJ Boye, Justin Simmons, Kareem Jackson. Last matchup, this is the second matchup of the season. 5 receptions, 117 yards. Okay, he went. It was probably his best game of the year last season. I think he puts up 6 receptions, 82 yards, and a touchdown. Again, maybe a little bit lower on the yards, higher on the receptions, but definitely getting that score for Mike Williams. And lastly, to end the season, Week 17 versus the Chiefs. Take a look at the last matchup. This is the last time we played. 2 receptions, 38 yards, no score. Definitely a little bit harder out in Arrowhead, so I'm going to say about the same. 5 receptions, 71 yards, more yardage, but no score for Mike Williams. So again, guys, I'm very high on Mike Williams. I think he'd have a really good season. This is what I would consider breakout numbers once again. We've seen it kind of before a couple years ago, but I think he really steps into the role this year. 72 receptions for 1,189 yards and 10 touchdowns for Mike Williams. So with that being said, guys, what do you guys think of Mike Williams? I got the jersey on today. I'm super high on Mike Williams. I'm super excited to see what he does next season. I really hope he has what most NFL fans would call a breakout year. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me. This has been The Director. Hit us up with a like and sub if you do enjoy these videos. We'll see you next time. Bolt up and stay frosty.